Welcome to the Other Discovery Show, the podcast that's not about podcasts. It's about all the other things that we discovered throughout the week. It is the bonus show from the Podcast Discovery Show, and I am Kirk.
I am Zach, and it's time for us to explore our bodies together.
Oh no!
So, if I remember correctly, we stopped off. I think it was the butt. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna skip some dangerous areas because we don't want to.
Oh man!
And we're going straight to the navel.
Okay.
The navel,
Okay.
clinically known as umbilicus, and colloquially known as the belly button, is a protruding, flat, or hollowed area on the abdomen attached at the site of the umbilical cord. All placental mammals have a navel. So, I mean, are whales placental mammals? Do whales have a belly button?
I think so.
Maybe. So, there's a lot more to this than I
don't
ever
know what mammals have and don't have placentals.
I mean,
That's not the right word. I know.
I think it's most mammals, right? Like, except for
That's what I thought.
like not platypi, because they're in eggs. Is that the plural of platypus? I don't know.
I'm sure. Yep.
But they're in eggs, so
We're scientists.
I don't think that works. But other than that, I think it's a placenta is like it's in a womb. So and first of all, that the Wikipedia page for this has a lot of really, really close up pictures of belly buttons, and it's messing with me a little bit. Nice.
Is that what you're giggling about? Is just looking at all the belly buttons?
Yes. And there's that Leonardo da Vinci thing where he's got the guy with the arms out and things like that. The belly button is the very center of the circle. It's
like the medical one?
Yeah. The belly button is right at the dead center. But basically, it's just a scar from where our umbilical cord was attached. But the thing that I found interesting about this is I was always of the impression that there's two types of belly button. Do you know what they are?
Innies and outies.
That's not even close. Outies. And I mean, like honestly, medically, it sounds much more disturbing than it is. Outie, a navel consisting of the umbilical tip protruding past the periumbilical skin, is an outie. Swirly/spiral, a rare form in which the umbilical cord scar literally forms a swirl. Split, protruding umbilical cord scar extends outwards, but is cleft in two by a fissure which extends part or all the way through the umbilical cord scar. Ooh. This form is similar in appearance to a coffee bean. Protrusion. The umbilical cord remnant is completely divulged, exposing the full umbilical scar. Circlet. Although the entirety of the umbilical cord remnant sits out with the umbilical collar, like these words, the center of the knot is inset by a deep fissure. Unlike a split outie, in this form, the fissure is contained centrally and does not extend past the umbilical cord remnant in any direction, much akin to a donut shape. I like how in every one of these they compare it to something. They didn't do it on the swirly, though. Much like, I don't even know what's swirly. What would be a good swirly? Much like the shape of an ice cream cone at McDonald's.
What?
It's swirly.
Does it say that?
No, I made that up just now. Okay, then we have innies. So yeah, then it doesn't go past the skin. And so it's concave. Round shaped. So obviously round with no hooding, which hooding. Yeah. Hooding. Like the wording on this is slightly disturbing.
Okay.
Vertical shaped. Some navels present in the form of more elongated, hollow parallel with the linea alba.
Okay, so I do have a question.
Jessica Alba's sister.
Go ahead and get through this, and then we'll. I have a question.
This form consists of three variants: superior hooding, inferior hooding, and no hooding.
My hooding is inferior to your.
I have superior
hooding.
T-shaped. As the name states, this scar is in the shape of a T and may have a superior hooding to a various extent. And then horizontal. The scar is least visible as natural lines of the tendinous intersection fold over the scar. So you can almost barely see a horizontal. And then there's also distorted. Any navel which does not fit well in any of the other categories. So here's
my question. Am I wrong in assuming, and I've never really looked into this, that belly buttons are more than anything a product of your doctor's way of tying this junk off and the way that it fell off and stuff? Like, is that the
No,
way it
because they
is?
do it the same. I think it's the way it falls off. Because it's
Is
not
it-
like they cut it close to the body. You know what I mean? They cut it in the middle. Like it's not like the middle. It's not like but they don't cut it like directly up against the skin. You know what I mean?
They put like this weird like clip on it and stuff
Yeah.
after they cut it, and it just like rots. It's
it
gross.
like dries and falls off. So then it's like I feel like it's like a basically kind of a natural thing. Your body just kind of does what it's going to do with it.
That's real weird.
Yeah.
What do you have, Zach?
Wait, I'm not even done. We haven't even talked about fashion, society, and culture yet.
Oh gosh.
No, I'm just kidding. We don't have to do that. Everybody knows Kirk has a belly button ring. I mean, it's a dolphin swimming around his belly button.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have.
No, but I just felt like we needed to explore our bodies, and the first thing I looked up was belly button, and it was very worth it.
I did. Okay, so I remember the first time I saw an Audi, and I was confused. I was young, and I'm like, why does it look like that? And why?
Yeah, I have an innie too.
Yeah, I have a very regular belly button, I guess you could say, not unique in any way.
But I can't really remember ever I can't remember the last time I noticed someone's belly button.
I have so I have a cousin, and he was a preemie, so I think that might have something to do with it. His is almost not raised or concave, but it's just like a perfect swirl. It's weird.
No, we know the name for that now.
What, swirl?
Yeah.
McDonald's swirl?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought,
soft serve.
Soft serve. There you go.
But yeah, my first actual topic is not about belly buttons.
Oh, it's not? That was a bonus?
Yeah. No, it's actually about nipples.
Oh. No, you've got to be kidding.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
My first my first one is much better than that.
Because it's about Daryl Davis. It's about Daryl Davis's nipples, and I don't really want to know.
It's not specifically. And honestly, Daryl Davis is amazing. So this is actually a good one. So I think we might have alluded to this guy at some point, but Daryl Davis is pretty famous at this point for being the person that converts KKK members.
Oh, yeah. We listened to an episode of Snap Judgment about this guy.
Yeah. And he also, it really made me regret, although I really like Les Stroud, he went on Joe Rogan, and it's probably the best Joe Rogan episode I've ever seen. Because just him telling these stories about like, literally he would like sneak up on people, not exactly, but he wouldn't like let them know that he was a black guy because he was trying to talk to KKK guys. And if you just told them that, they wouldn't even meet with him. So he has this like, seriously, I know we don't normally talk about podcasts here, but once you hear about this guy, if you want to hear him tell some of these stories, he goes on Joe Rogan, and it is freaking mind blowing. And
he
beyond that,
Snap Judgment,
yeah, and Snap Judgment too. But he's kind of famous for that now. But he has been playing piano for like 60 years. He played with Chuck Berry, essentially the father of rock and roll. He played with Jerry Lee Lewis. He played with B.B. King. He played with Bruce Hornsby, and like he's a serious musician at the same time. He does boogie woogie. So if you've ever heard like Jerry Lee Lewis, he does that style of piano where it's really, really high energy. And he also has a documentary out now.
Boogie woogie.
Yeah, boogie woogie. But yeah, now he has a documentary out that's, well, it was 2016 called Accidental Courtesy, Daryl Davis, Race in America. And I had heard about this guy kind of several times. And then I saw that he started like he's been on a lot of interview circuit in the past like couple years. So you can check out a lot more about kind of how he's working through this stuff. And he literally started, this all spawned from his music career, because he was talking about he would go play at this bar, and I think it was in like a majority white like town or whatever, and he was playing it. Somebody's like, "Oh, you play. The only person I've heard play as good as you is Jerry Lewis," and he's like, or Jerry Lee Lewis, and he's like, "Well, I mean, Little Richard and stuff were doing it before him," and they like refused to believe it, and that kind of sent him on this whole path. And we were talking. I mean, it's weird because we recorded the PDS first, but it's not going to come out till Wednesday. But on the PDS next Wednesday, we're going to talk about how Shannon Cason was kind of like abused when he was young. And that's literally what sent Daryl Davis on his path as well. He was a Boy Scout, and there was a parade, and they were all like marching together. You know, all the Boy Scout troop was like marching, and they hit a pocket of people that was apparently like KKK or just racist, because he was growing up during like the 60s. So there was more of it around. There was more just generalness, because I feel like it's more rare now to have people just like being crazy. But they apparently started throwing like rocks and bottles at him when he was a kid.
That's
And he got home and he asked his parents, like, how is it did these people, like, I don't think he understood why they were doing it, because he was young, you know, he was still a child, and he didn't understand why they were even doing this. And so then he had to, like, that's when he first learned about racism. And like, how is somebody going to hate me when they don't even know who I am? Like, they don't know me at all. How are they going to hate me? And that was kind of his premise that sent him on this entire path. And he is also he is the only black man ever to write a book about the KKK, because he literally is he's like a foremost expert on the KKK now, because always after this, he was trying to figure out, why do they hate me? You know, that was something he was constantly chasing, is why do they hate me? But essentially he started kind of going through this process with people where he would become friends with them. So it wasn't like he wouldn't like go there, immediately call them out and like have like a yelling match with them. He would show them who he was and like just try to be friends with people that he knows are part of
it's
that.
almost like he humanized them so that they could humanize him. And I think that was the connection, because they had dehumanized him because of his race, but him not, you know, him being not scared to, you know, I don't know. Because the episode that I heard of him talking was, the connection was through music. You know, I think it was that specific thing you were talking about. And, you know, he was like, no, there's black people that have done it before this white dude did it. And the KKK guy's like, nah, there's no way. And then he proved it. And he's like, no, for real. You know, there's some really good black musicians that you should probably check out. And I think that was the first person that what do they call it? He basically takes he has a collection of like KKK hoods.
He does.
He de-hoods them or whatever.
Well, no, and it's voluntary. You know what I mean? Like they give them to him, you know, because that story I was talking about where he meets up with somebody and there's like a gun in play. It's like he tells us, he's a great storyteller. You would love check out that Joe Rogan episode. You're going to love it. But essentially, they think he has gone on to befriend over 20 members of the KKK, which, just think about that for a second. There is a random guy who is black, and that is like the absolute, like, I don't know, the worst thing that could happen to a KKK person. I don't know. They're so, I don't understand at all I don't get it. But they hate these people just because of the color of their skin. And this guy is just becoming friends with them, and they're literally leaving the KKK because of him. And he's befriended over 20 members and claims to have been directly responsible for between 40 and 60 people leaving, and indirectly for 200 people leaving the KKK.
That's
one guy
amazing.
Having conversations with people and playing piano the whole time.
I don't know. There's something so special about being able to talk to somebody that you 1000% disagree with, but being able to do it in a way where you don't immediately build a wall between you and them, even though they've built a wall. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things that he had to do perfectly to have a conversation with somebody like that they've, you know, innately, and because of their systemic racism, built this wall between them, and he's been able to break it down. And I don't know, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah. He's a real, like, seriously, you will love this episode of Joe Rogan, because he's an amazing person. And I'll leave with this quote from him. The lesson learned is ignorance breeds fear. If you don't keep that fear in check, that fear will breed hatred. If you don't keep that hatred in check, it will breed destruction. So he's just he's a really great guy, and I definitely recommend people looking up anything you can about him, because he's awesome.
That's awesome. So I found this article, and it's actually like an interview of astronaut, what's his name real quick? 1 second. Astronaut Jim Lovell. And he talks about basically this NASA guy's interviewing him about the Apollo 13 disaster. And it's 50 years after the disaster, and they do this discussion because he was supposed to be on that mission. And basically there was some things that happened where that crew was taken off and they picked a different crew. It's astronomy.com. That wasn't from NASA. It was astronomy.com who's the one that did the interview. And the thing that I found on the Today I Learned that I thought was fascinating. First of all, this is a great interview. He talks a lot about, gonna be on the mission and then being pulled off. And he had gone to space multiple times, but he had never done, the moon landing. But he has a different perspective on NASA. But it was funny because at one point in the interview, the interviewer asks, he says, if you were able to go on another space flight after the explosion that almost killed the crew that you were almost on, that killed the crew of Apollo 13 on its way to the moon, would you do it? And he was about to say yes in the interview. And then he saw a hand shoot up from the audience and slowly give the thumbs down sign. And it was his wife. So he's like, nope. And it's just, he's an older guy. Like, this is, 50 years after the mission he would have been on. And they got some awesome pictures. It was a really good discovery. There's a lot of really cool interview questions and things like that.
Have you seen the movie Apollo 13?
It's been like probably over 10 years.
It's really worth a rewatch. It's really worth it. It's because it's a crazy story. And I mean, that was back in like the space race, everybody was watching all this on TV. So yeah, his wife had to sit at home and find out that the Apollo 13 astronauts were running out of oxygen, and they had to make something else like some socks and a box and duct tape. Otherwise they were all going to die.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, I think that we need to bring in a discovery from the Podcast Discovery Club. And
let me give you a mini tiny baby discovery that Bobby had in the chat.
Perfect.
So his discovery, which he hasn't actually discovered, but he's heard about it, so he wants to try it, is the grilled cheese burrito at Taco Bell.
The grilled cheese burrito?
He says, have any of you had the grilled cheese burrito at Taco Bell yet? I heard it's good, but haven't tried it yet. That is my weekly future discovery.
So wait, is it just a quesadilla rolled up? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll have to look into that.
I mean, I'm not interested in that. I just want like a cheese burrito. It sounds weird.
It does sound weird.
I'm not that big on cheese to begin with.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're the not cheese guy, which is so weird.
All right. So our boy Keith from Pop-Up Filmcast and frequent contributor to the Podcast Discovery Club and our movie correspondent for the show. He apparently didn't want to talk to us anymore. And so he just sent in the trailer for a movie called Red Penguins. And wow, I want to watch it so bad.
I haven't seen this yet, so now I have to see this.
Okay, so here's the summary. Red Penguins tells the story of capitalism and opportunity run amok, complete with gangsters, strippers, and live bears serving beer on a hockey rink in Moscow. This is a documentary, by the way. Shortly after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the famed Red Army hockey team formed a joint venture that showed anything was possible in the new Russia. Eccentric marketing whiz Steve Warshaw is sent to Russia and tasked to transform team into the greatest show in Moscow. He takes the viewer on a bizarre journey highlighting a pivotal moment in U.S.-Russian relations in a lawless era when oligarchs made their fortunes and multiple murders went unsolved.
What the
And when
heck?
they say strippers, guess where the strippers were involved. And this Russian hockey team, they're like, you know what? Cheerleaders could be better. They literally put strippers as cheerleaders, and they would go down on the ice. They're like halftime and strip. And there's literally like bears drinking beer and like holding up trophies on the ice. Like it is the trailer for this movie is buck wild. It does not seem real, but I am sold. I want to watch it so bad.
Mother Russia. That sounds nuts. Oh man.
So yeah,
Well,
Keith.
thanks, Keith.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that documentary in the Podcast Discovery Club. And thank you, Bobby, for your discovery of, well, soon to be discovery
Hold on
of
one
the
second. I have to look at a
grilled
picture
cheese
of this.
burrito, Taco Bell. Okay, he said it's a beefy, crunchy burrito with cheese on the outside, then wrapped in wax paper and pressed. That makes it more confusing to me.
I need to just see it. I feel like is there a Munch Squad for this yet?
I'm sure. I'm not caught up on the new
stuff. It does look
stuff.
like they just like. I think he's right. So it's a. Yeah,
is it like a burrito that then they made like a quesadilla on the outside?
No, it's not like a quesadilla. It's literally they put some cheese on the outside and then press it, so it's like got like crispy cheese on the outside of the burrito.
That's weird.
Is what it looks like.
Yeah, it sounds like a Munch Squad to me.
Yeah, there's going to be a Munch Squad about that. I'm sure they're going to riff for a long time about that.
For sure. I found a discovery about, now this is your pop culture for the week. This is breaking news. It's from 2011.
Oh man.
I just realized how old the story is. It's a good story, but I didn't realize how old the story was. It's from peoplemagazine.com. But it is a funny story about George Clooney, who he wanted a new dog, so he went to essentially like a shelter, and he wanted to adopt this dog. Well, and I love the shelter's gall and the strength, and they're like, hey, well, it's up to the dog, so you have to come by, and if the dog likes you, then you can adopt him, but if he doesn't, then you can't. Even if you're George Clooney, we don't care. The dog has to like you. And apparently George Clooney, who is basically fairly famous for pranks and silly stuff anyway, which I didn't know that, but according to this article, it says he is.
No, he is.
He says, I started to panic that Einstein, which is the name of the dog that he gave, is not going to like me, Clooney says of their first meeting. So I run into the kitchen where I have these turkey meatballs, and I rub them all over my shoes. Who knew that Einstein was such a food whore on top of everything? He throws himself at my feet. Einstein instantly had a new home. And forever now, he thinks of me as the guy with the meatball feet. He loves me. I can do no wrong. And he follows me everywhere. So this is the story about how George Clooney had to basically coerce a dog into being his companion for life by rubbing meatballs all over his shoes.
Wait, I mean, is that all it takes? That's not too bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
That's doable.
I thought it was a cute story, and it was funny. Had all the great things. Had an actor and a dog and meatballs. It's a great story. All the best stories.
All the things that I'm looking for: an actor, dog, meatballs.
Only the best from the Podcast Discovery Show. Yeah, so that'll do it for this week's episode of The Other Discovery Show. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for watching over on the YouTube or on the Twitch or on the Facebook Club. Yeah, we're everywhere. Everywhere you can think of, we're there probably.
We're trying to, at least.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but we're getting there. So yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on the Facebook group. Join the Facebook group if you're not already there, because it's amazing. It's awesome. It's fun. And as well as we stream some games weekly on Twitch 2 or 3 times a week, and it's fun. So yeah, join us on there.
Yeah. So, and also, if you would not mind, it helps the show out a lot if you follow us on Spotify. It would help us a lot if you did on Twitch as well. I think we can like literally change the quality of our videos. Basically, if you could just follow us, we'd really appreciate it. It'd be very helpful. But in general, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. We hope you join us again next week.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. Check out more shows like it at oddfixnetwork.com.